I want you to imagine this. Two girls, both are in love with the same boy. Yet, instead of tearing their friendship apart, they refuse to let jealousy destroy what it is that they have. That's not Naruto Part 1. That's not Sakura versus Ino. Instead, this is Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. And here's the twist that I don't think enough people realize or even know. This is one of the more underrated aspects of what Ikemoto's been writing under Kishimoto's supervision for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Kishimoto himself admitted that he struggled to convey the heart of a young woman. Ikemoto, on the other hand, he has quietly elevated the female cast in a way that changes the DNA of the series itself. Today, we're going to dive into why Sarada and Sumire's so-called romantic rivalry that has been getting blown out of proportion is actually more well-written than people realize. It is surprisingly mature. It has developments in Boruto, and it also proves that Ikemoto may have surpassed his sensei Kishimoto in terms of understanding female characters better than Kishimoto ever did. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, goes into detail about why the handling of Sarada and Sumire's rivalry for Boruto's heart is better than anything that it gets credit for, strictly from a craft perspective. Also, if you haven't seen the chapter review, I'm going to leave it linked in the description box if anyone's not seen it yet. Also, this is the not part 2 to the romance video that I promised earlier, which part 1 will be linked in the description box for your convenience as well. The thumbnail for that video should have Sarada and Sumire with a Boruto plushie and Boruto looking annoyed in the background because, as always, I'm going to poke fun at situations when I think people are blowing stuff out of proportion, or if I don't agree with the topic or the outrage surrounding it. So let's just start with the biggest elephant in the room. Let's just get right to it. Naruto as a manga, it did struggle with female characters. Just the manga. I don't care what's in the anime. Whatever anime filler episode you're thinking about, it goes in the trash bin. That's my rule over here on the channel. I don't care about Naruto filler. I've read Naruto's manga over 100 times. I have yet to see every Naruto and Naruto Shippuden anime episode, let alone the filler episode. So let's just, again, start with the obvious. Naruto was never truly known for handling his female characters with nuance. Sure, you had a character like Tsunade, you had a character like Granny Chio, where they had some layers to their characters, but even they left something to be desired. Even with someone like Hinata, even someone like Conan, they had standout moments, but those moments were more so rooted in their battle moments. With Hinata standing up against Pain or is standing up against Neji. With Conan, a lot of people, when you say her name, they think about, oh yeah, she almost killed Obito. That's more masculine stuff. We're talking about battle situations in a battle shonen, which, hey, that's to be expected. But when it came to emotions, relationships, in particular love, Kishimoto for over a decade, well over a decade, going back to the late 2000s, he's been quite open with his struggles. In fact, that was the whole reason why for Naruto the Last, a group of shoujo writers were brought in to help with the script on the movie. It was not just one script writer. There was a team brought in to write, and he came in to make revisions to the script. And he said himself, writing romance makes him feel embarrassed, which I get. It makes him feel embarrassed because he looks at the characters like his children. That's the whole reason why during Naruto the Last, when the writers, which again, Kishimoto did not write that story start to finish, the scarf was his idea. That's the whole reason why he made the writers several times go back and retweak the story, because he had an idea of what he wanted, but he couldn't convey it. Which kudos to him as a writer for admitting his flaws and working on them in the decade plus since saying what he did. However, it should also be worth noting, he's also been open about his struggles writing female characters in general. In fact, he once said this about Sakura Haruno, the female heroine lead of Naruto's manga. He said that she's a character, I'm quoting damn near verbatim here, she's a character that I didn't know how to develop as well as she should have deserved. It was difficult for me to understand the heart of a young woman, so I didn't dwell on it. Think about that for a second. I'm going to add some extra context. That was a character who was modeled after his own wife. Sakura was drawn to look like his wife. That was something that Eiichiro Oda brought up, like, yo, your wife really looks like Sakura. Ironic given Oda's wife looks like Nami, but the fact is that that was the one person that Kishimoto on 2 separate occasions said, like, yeah, Sakura's a template for my wife. The second time he said it was when he revealed, yeah, my wife was very pissed off that Naruto married Hinata instead of Sakura. She secretly realized that Hinata's not the template for her. She's pissed off because Naruto's modeled after Kishimoto, but we did that in a whole nother video, so I'm not going to dwell on it. But I said to say this, that is someone who should have had the most depth because she's modeled after his wife. Instead, she became the one that he admitted he failed to develop. That's not a small admission. That's the series creator openly telling us where his writing fell short. Now, it should be worth noting the other person that he said his wife was a character model after was also Kushina, and you saw better aspects with Kushina's character, but that was in a limited bite-sized chunk in Naruto volume 53. She was in the manga for like 4 or 5 chapters. Now, when you get into the Ino versus Sakura thing, that Naruto rivalry, that's right there. And in my opinion, that is one of the more obvious shortcomings that Kishimoto had when it came to trying to write the nuanced and very complicated emotions of teenage girls. In the Sakura and Ino rivalry, it was on full display. They were best friends who they turned into enemies over a boy. Their bond was completely broken because of their crush on Sasuke. It took them years, literally until the middle of part 1 of the story, for their friendship to begin mending. And even then, that rivalry, it still overshadowed some of the development. Instead of 2 girls with agency, they were reduced to trying to get the attention of a boy that they liked. Now, they grew over time, absolutely, but it was immature, it was shallow, and it left both characters stunted until they grew later on in the story. When it comes to matters of the heart, in particular with teenage girls, I understand struggling a little bit. Male writers more often than not struggle with female characters. And in a battle shonen that is typically geared towards teenage boys, that's not exactly where your head is as well. Even though part of the reason why you will see mangaka try to incorporate some variation of romance into even shonen stories is because romance is also part of teenage life for boys and girls. Not even a super action heavy series like Dragon Ball was immune from having romantic subplots. The same with, say, Demon Slayer. So I understand that. And it's why I've always said, if you're going to attempt to write romance and you're going to attempt to write with a female character in a certain way and try to capture the complexities of women in general, young women in general, it takes a very talented writer for a male to do that. In most of the series I can think of where it's been done very well, they all have one thing in common. It was a woman writing those stories. That's not to say that there aren't exceptions. Again, the Kenshin mangaka was able to do it very well, and Hiro Mashima did it twice with Rave Master and Eden Zero. So it can be done by a male writer. And they crafted those stories in a way to where the romance elevated the plot and ended up being very crucial for the final arcs of the series. Now, when you get into Boruto's approach, it's different with Sarada and Sumire. In Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, Sarada, she confessed her feelings for Boruto. That was a huge moment, not just for her development, but for shonen storytelling as a whole. How did Sumire respond here? She doesn't deny her own feelings. She openly admits, hey, I also like Boruto, but I'm not going to give up on that. Thank you for telling me how you feel. Instead of ending the friendship right there, she tells Sarada she's always known how Sarada felt. And despite that, she wasn't going to give up on trying to capture Boruto's heart. It was subtle, but it was also powerful. These girls are acknowledging their rivalry while also preserving their bond, their value, in particular what they value their friendship to be and everything they went through because of omnipotence. They valued that enough to not let Boruto's heart become a wedge that tears them apart. It very easily could, but it didn't. That doesn't mean there aren't cracks. There are cracks there. Earlier on in this arc, Sumire did gaslight Sarada when she hugged Boruto. Her jealousy was bleeding through in a way that felt very human. For the first time, I didn't have anything to meme Sumire about, with her being the ... girl. where she has the speech bubble and she's got the 3 dots. She's like the most perceptive or the most completely shocked person ever. We saw, wait a second, she's not a robot. I love that moment. That's why I remade the thumbnail for the Eren gaslighting his father scene from Attack on Titan, one of my favorite scenes, because I saw where Ikemoto was taking this. But I want you to pay attention to what Ikemoto did here. He didn't let that moment define or ruin their friendship. He made it part of the messy reality of love and jealousy. And then he moved them past it because both of these girls are emotionally mature. This is something that highlights Ikemoto's growth and Kishimoto's own struggles. Allow me to explain what I mean even further. This is why you should give Ikemoto some credit he deserves, because even Kishimoto himself admitted that he struggled to capture this side of his female characters, this side as well as others. When he was preparing to write Sarada for Naruto Gaiden, which is the Scarlet Spring, which is basically the Shin Uchiha arc, which that is a Naruto story. That is the epilogue manga volume for the Naruto manga. And also for Naruto Boruto the movie, Kishimoto in that time period confessed, Sarada, and I'm quoting basically, Sarada is really not the typical girl who goes through a girl phase. I believe I really need to study the mentality of young girls and things of that nature. So I ended up buying various books about how to do it, like Girl Power Up and magazines for young girls. So that tells you something. Kishimoto had to study girls from the outside looking in, like a researcher. Ikemoto, on the other hand, we don't have any type confession like that. He writes Sarada and Sumire with a natural fluidity. Their emotions, they feel authentic. They don't feel forced. You can go through and reread Boruto's manga in part 1, and you can see the crescendo building towards this moment in part 2 of the story. There were hints and signs that Sarada did like Boruto. There were clear as day signs that Sumire liked Boruto. But neither girl let Boruto define their character arc. Their love for Boruto did not erase their respect for each other. Is it messy? Yes. Teenage girls are messy, but it's also believable. And one thing that is very important here, when Sarada and Uchiha says that, hey, I gained power through love, it wasn't her saying she only got power because of her love for Boruto. Instead, she's saying, accepting how she felt, basically removed mental nerfs that she had, and it's because she wants to help Boruto that she is growing stronger, but she's never given up on her Hokage dream. And that's why this matters. Shonen manga, they have a long history. Battle shonen especially. They have a long history of sidelining female characters whenever romance enters the picture. They become damsels in distress. They become completely defined by the boy that they love. Their friendships, they collapse under the weight of jealousy. For every Kaoru that you get from Rurouni Kenshin, for every Rebecca that you get from Eden Zero, for every Ellie that you get from Rave Master, you get some female characters, and I don't have to say the names because you're probably thinking of them yourself right now. You get some female characters where they're just completely rooted to, oh, I'm the romantic interest, end quote, basically. But Sarada and Sumire, they're different. Their dynamic shows that it's possible to love the same person while also not devaluing yourself or your friendships. It's possible to love somebody and still chase after your goals. That is what Sarada is being written as a character to teach. It paints a realistic picture of female bonds and just bonds in general. That's a really big deal because it fixed not just one flaw from Naruto, but it also shows a generational shift in how female characters can be written in shonen. And by that, I'm really referring to the Naruto franchise in manga format. Because again, by Kishimoto's words, he sucked at writing romance. He got very lucky with Temari and Shikamaru, and even in manga format, you didn't really have a lot. Most of what you're probably thinking about with those characters in terms of romance, that came from stuff that you saw in the anime. Now, are there mangaka that do a better job at writing female characters, in particular in the romance angle, than Ikemoto? Yes. But this is a big development on his part. Again, there are mangaka that do a better job at building romance than he is. He's also a work in progress. Got to see how he gets to the payoff for this. But Ikemoto is quietly doing something that Kishimoto, by his own words, said he couldn't. He's giving emotional lives and depths to his female characters and also adding in some complexity. And as somebody that's read about 350 completed series, I don't think he's doing a bad job. It could be better in some aspects, yes. But compared to some of the stuff that peers of his have tried to do, I think he's done a passable job. But it's hard to grade until you see the end game. Now, as battle shonen fans, we care about boom, boom, bam, bam. Absolutely. But there's nothing wrong with adding a romantic subplot, and there's nothing wrong with using that as a way to further character arcs while also not making it the only part of the character arc. It's a lot better than Sai gets with Ino and you go, wait a second, all he did was say you're pretty in one line in the manga, and all of a sudden 14 years later Ino's got a kid with the guy. Like, dog, if that's all he had to do to bag Ino, females in the Naruto universe are a whole lot easier than in real life. Like, my man had it on easy mode. Where did Choji and Kaori come from? At least now you're actually seeing things being built up. I kind of feel like Ikemoto has a underrated achievement here. When we take a look at Boruto 2 Blue Vortex today, we're seeing more than just a time skip story. We're seeing more than just a traditional battle story. We're seeing the evolution of female character writing within the Naruto universe itself. And we're seeing it without the melodrama that comes from a sob backstory. Oh, Tsunade, her lover Dan died, her brother Nawaki died. She has the fear of blood. Great, Tsunade is one of my favorite Naruto characters, don't get me wrong. Same thing with Chiyo. Chiyo lost Sasuke's parents to the White Fang, and she had the whole issue with the next generation. And yet, being critical, and Naruto's a top 3 manga for me, being critical, Kishimoto could have gone deeper with those characters. And it goes back to his own words. He does not feel comfortable diving into the heart of a woman. Or at least back then he didn't, because if you read Samurai 8, he did a good job with Anne and the implied romance on Hachimaru there. And he did a really good job in the Minato one-shot manga with Minato and Kushina. Very beautifully done. When you acknowledge your limitations, that allows you to work on them. And you have to applaud someone when they make progress like that. Sarada and Sumire's rivalry, if you think it's about who's just going to win Boruto's heart, respectfully, you don't understand what you're reading. It's about how two girls are able to navigate love without losing each other. That's something that we didn't see with Sakura and Ino. That's something that the way that their dynamic is being set up reminds me of Megumi and Karu from my favorite manga, Rurouni Kenshin, an absolute classic. Kishimoto once said he struggled to understand the hearts of young women and women in general. Ikemoto has taken that challenge and he's turned it into one of the quiet strengths of 2 Blue Vortex, and his own sensei Kishimoto has acknowledged that. He's acknowledged that he likes Sarada's character writing in the story, and that may be the most underrated achievement in Boruto's story so far. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking here on the left to check out more videos from Naruto Explained, like that chapter review, or click here on the right to check out videos from my other 2 anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto content.